Well, I'd like to call this meeting to order. First order of business is the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First order of business is to approve tonight's agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. To approve the April 19th, 2022 regular council meeting minutes. Everybody had a chance to look through them. Any additions, deletions, corrections?
Motion to approve. I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. To approve the list of claims for April 2022.
I'll make that motion to approve the list of claims for April 2022.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. To accept the account balance and financial statements of the general, water, and sewer funds as of April 30th, 2022.
I just have one question on that. Under the short-term debit, Bobcat, is that the current balance that we owe on it? The 22,376.14?
That sounds about right.
That's
Good, man.
It's coming down nice.
Really nice.
Couple years will be ours.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. To accept the April 2022 liquor store operating statement.
No.
No, that would be approve the ordinance for the ones Minnesota Power.
Missed the last one.
Yeah, to approve the ordinance number 160 Minnesota Power Franchise Agreement.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. To accept the liquor operating statement for April 2022.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Maintenance report next.
How's it going, guys?
Yeah, you've been busy, man.
Looking all water, you've had dock issues and things like that.
You're out on top of the game.
Trying.
Again, I see the county has authorized seeking funds for any damage caused by this flooding, so keep records, make notes, take some pictures, whatever, docks, shorelines, culverts, manholes, whatever that you see that has some damage caused by that. Other than that, how are the docks holding up?
Really good. The beach dock and the pier dock are both holding good. This one down here I'm a little nervous about just because it's so old. And it's all the pylons that it's sitting on there's not much left of them. So all that weight we put on there, I don't know what it's going to look like once we get all the totes off of there. But if we don't tote it, it's going to be gone.
One thing you can do, Nick, I was told by where Dwayne Shulman lives out there where he must repair a water break
Yep.
out there. It's settled quite a bit now, and there is dirt, leftover clay from the water line that's sitting on the back slope of the road. And that probably can be cleaned up, and it will probably need about, if you can use my dump trailer or something, and you can probably put, it's probably 3-4 yards of fresh rock in that. It's settled enough now that it has to be filled in. So,
Yep.
if you need a dump trailer or something, I think if I went at the ready mix plant, you can use.
Okay. We used your flatbed for the totes. We used your flatbed for the hauling all them totes up for our docks.
Whatever, anything we have is, you need, just go ahead and take it. Anything else for Nick? Trees, again, we got some tree issues that are going to be coming down. I think Cheryl mentioned our contract from the state is not back yet, but it'll soon be coming back. And if that's the case, we can then hire it done, get reimbursed for it. But again, if you see a tree that needs to be taken down.
Yeah, we got a couple that we need to get down, so we can do them. We got word from a contractor in town that's gonna be trading in one of his pickups, 4-wheel drive with a V-plow, fuel tank in the back for a skid steer, back rack, strobe light. And I know in our capital planning with Mike and now we've been talking about getting a new pickup for the city. And this one that they're gonna be trading in locally here, would be a great truck for us. And everything's done to it that we need. 2020. It's got 9,000 miles.
Can you be in line to grab it when they trade it in?
I'm in line.
I would say go for it. We've talked about it.
It's a 3/4 ton with
Yeah.
It's got everything. It's everything we do to a truck that how I'd build one for the city. It's already all done to it.
What happens to the one we have now then?
If we don't know what dime on it, I'd keep it for summertime. 2-wheel drive for running around doing garbage and stuff like that. We can park.
Money with the plow, I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Money.
And we can keep 3/4 ton parked for most of the time and use it in the fall and the winter.
The more you can plow, the less everybody we have to pay. I would go for
I
it.
think the truck would pay for itself in 5 years.
What's the capital price on
It was 58 for everything with the plow.
it? 50?
58.
58?
Only
That's with the
9,000.
plow.
9,000 miles is with the plow, fuel tank, back rack, everything.
Warranties and,
I priced the new one out, set up just like that, and it was 69.
No, I'd go for it. You got it.
Well, if we're going to do that, we need a motion.
I'll make a motion that he goes ahead and tries to get this truck that's gonna be up for sale here real soon.
Second?
Any further discussion?
Well, I mean, we discussed it even in our capital improvement meeting, and so it's not something that's coming out of left field. We know that.
We got it.
and Mayor, I can look to see if we want to pay straight out cash or if we want to lease it like we did the Bobcat.
We can lease it too. That, look in there which way is better.
I guess straight up cash, we wouldn't be paying interest over 10 years, but
We can do that.
It's a write-off if you do the bank stuff.
I guess there's a motion on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. I think what you do, Nick, is if you make an agreement on the sale, whether we decide to finance it or pay for it in alternate financing or whatever, I think we can discuss that through the office here. So
Yep.
go ahead and do that. It brings us to another portion. I have a request to sell that exercise equipment, $2,000, $1,800. What's the price?
Yes.
Yeah.
I just took pictures of it yesterday.
Somebody wants
Yes,
it.
I talked to the fellow today, and he still wants it, so.
I'll sell it.
Absolutely.
I'll make a motion to sell
Second?
A motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Sold then, all right. Anything else for Dick?
Quick question. Remind me again, is it Johnny Walls that's responsible for putting the park back together?
Yeah, he's got all the. I think Donnie Bellinger has all the parts for
the
it
rec club. Yeah.
to the rec club.
Do they
Yeah,
have a timeline that they can give us?
I can talk to Johnny and ask him. I think Donnie's.
A lot of people going to the park.
I seen that yesterday.
Sounded like it was ready to go. They just had to put time.
They just gotta paint it, it's all fine, and it just needs to be painted.
I can talk to him and get the timeline.
You may want to be on some of this. Well, that's the rural water. Rural water wants to come up Thursday and discuss a rural water district. And they give you a call if you want to be in on those discussions. It's going to be a county-wide
Yeah.
discussion about expanding to a rural water district, for the entire county. I'll call you and see if what your work schedule is. It's real preliminary now, so
Okay.
just more or less see what it take to form one and everything, which I know already. But okay, anything else for Nick?
Nope. Thanks, Nick.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
Take care of that. Filling that one spot over.
Yep.
So that's pretty right. Next, it would be Mike, welcome on the capital improvement plan. Draft anyway. Nice.
I talked about this at the committee of the whole a week ago. I can quickly go over it if you want, or,
I thought, I went through it over the weekend, and I think it's in the right direction, personally.
I just have a concern about the $2.45 raise in the water per month.
That's for the emergency fund, right?
correct.
Yeah.
Maintenance fund, please.
Yeah,
We
did
have
we
an
not
extreme
just have
water.
didn't we just have a raise recently?
3-4 years ago.
That was for the escrow fund?
This is gonna be, what we're trying to do is create a fund like we did with the highway fund.
Yeah, I understand that, but it's just the amount that I was concerned about, because
Less than $30 a year.
If you don't have that extra fund in there and something happens, it's going to cost us a lot more money than $2.46 a month.
Right. And if something happens outside of Ranier, you're really strapped on where you're going to get the funding from. Most of the funding that you can get,
And this funding is going to be the whole district.
Exactly.
Not just Ranier.
correct,
Everybody.
Otherwise, it would be Ranier's problem.
yes.
And that's an issue for it.
Yeah, unfortunately, we do have a reserve in there right now to do water repairs and everything else, but unfortunately, our lines are getting older, and as they get older, you have more leaks, and it's just the attrition, so
Yeah.
our maintenance costs, whether we want it or not, are going to be going up.
Right.
And it's just a nature of the beast.
I'd rather.
I don't, Nick can probably tell me, or tell you, how much a water main break costs every time you go out. Nick, any idea?
Every time the water break,
Yeah,
it depends, it could be $8,000 to $6,000 to $14,000, it depends on how long the airport taking, and
right.
how the district at a 7.5-foot frost line to roadway, so.
If we can get the folks that are tied with us for $2.46 besides us, that's a good thing.
Exactly.
this will
Yep.
all be presented to the community and
I would recommend that you present it to the community, and the reason why, because right now, those funds are coming out of some other pot of money, basically Ranier money, I would assume. Cheryl can probably clarify that, but I do believe it's coming out of Ranier money.
No, it comes out of the water fund.
Well,
Yeah,
okay. Which decreases the escrow.
correct.
One
Yeah.
thing to note here, on the other thing, I see, of course, we have the seek funding for materials to maintain the current dock system and the expansion of the pier. I don't know if you guys were watching last night, but a bonding bill was passed. They decided how to spend the surplus, and they divided it up, and there's $1.5 billion now for bonding projects. They've been set aside for bonding projects, which we were shortlisted for that. So within a week or so, that $1.5 billion will get divided up among projects that have been
Yeah.
selected for,
Yep.
for the gifts, I guess. So the International Falls has one in there too for their ferry park expansion and that. So I'm sure there's many other requests in there, but there was a question whether there was going to be a bonding bill or not. They used they set aside $1.5 billion for those projects. So now it's just a matter of waiting to see, which will be determined by the end of May. As soon as before the session is over, they'll figure out who's going to get what. So other money set aside for
Yeah, that's
workers and-
actually separate funding.
Well,
I mean, that's-
what it was is they had that $9 billion surplus, and what were they going to do with it? And they put some of it back in reserves, and then they gave the frontline workers, nurses and school teachers and such, a whole bunch of money. And then they had some other things they were going to do. Tax relief was a big one, property tax relief. And again, I think we've all looked at that, so we'll see how that is going to come about. I think everybody has noticed there's been a pretty big healthy tax increases across the on the waterfront property. Locally, the city, in downtown hasn't been affected much, but anything on the water has been greatly affected. So
I think if you look at page 16, there's a list of the items that we recommended to be included in the capital improvement projects. The spreadsheet that you're looking at, some of those projects that are listed on page 16 are out of that. The other ones are not. That dock system or pier system, whatever it's called, that wasn't included in this list because it's outside funding that's coming in. It doesn't have to be a capital improvement project that the city pays for.
Well, I'm just going over your spreadsheet, it looks really nice, I can see these are ideas that we've been kicking around, and of course, you guys did a great job of trying to put dollar amounts to it and everything else, so that's...
We wrote off a lot of the ideas that we had.
Well, you have to adapt to that budget, I mean, like anything else.
It's all plan in progress, all of this is a plan in
Yeah,
progress.
yeah. But again, if, I would ask you to take a look at page 16 in the document.
Pardon me?
If you take a peek at page 16 on the document,
Speaking of the microphone, you can hear better.
what?
Speaking of the microphone, you can hear better.
Hello?
What's going on?
I'm just saying you can hear better when you speak into the microphone.
Yeah.
I'm the same way. Is this thing on?
Yes.
Apparently, you have to talk into it though a little louder, that's all. But,
Okay.
yeah, that's good for me.
Yeah, if you look at page 16, you can see the list of projects. Liquor store parking lot was came out as number one, as well as a maintenance building. The reason it's 1 and 1A is because the funds come out of a different pot of money. One comes out of the ARPA funds, the other out of the general fund. 3-ton pickup you just talked about with Nick. And dump trailer, community building was grants, and then of course the liquor store patio. Those were the items that were actually selected by the committee. Not saying the other ones aren't important, these are just a little bit more important. If you look at that parking lot at the liquor store, it's non-existent.
Time to do it again.
Yeah.
I'd like to make a motion that we pass the new city plan.
I'll second.
There's a motion on the floor to accept the draft of the plan for city development, I guess. Any further discussion?
Yeah, this is just a draft, it won't actually go through the college and presented to the community and.
If I may, I think the committee is done. If the council approves it, then the word draft comes off.
Then we start working on each project as recommended,
Correct.
assuming the funding is available and...
As it becomes available, yep.
Obviously, if something shows up, we still reserve the right to probably cancel a project unless it's halfway through.
All it is a plan.
It's just a plan.
Nothing is in concrete.
What we're voting on here now in recommendation is to accept the plan, not necessarily enact it. I mean, we'll enact it, but again, we have the right to, correct me if I'm wrong. We have the right, if we don't have money to
Well-
do some of this stuff, obviously, it's going to happen, it's all not going to all happen in one swipe, we know that, so.
Of course.
And we have a motion and a second on the floor, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
I have a couple more things. When we originally started out, it was strictly to do a road improvement plan, or that was the major thrust. I think it was 2012, ARDC did the transportation improvement plan. The list of streets are in there, what should be done to the streets. There was also money put aside in there, or put in there at that time, those dollars in 2012. It's still a good plan. I would recommend the council relook at that to see what those roads, which roads need to be approved and when. That was done 10 years ago. And 10 years ago, the recommendation was to set aside funds for that. That was 10 years ago. It hasn't been done. Hence, that's why we need the water fund, or the increase in the water fund. And the second thing that I would say is, I would ask the council to review this plan every 3 months Typically, when a lot of times when a company or an organization does a strategic plan or a community plan, they say, great job, it's done, then it sits on the shelf, and then 10 years later they pick it up. So you have to keep looking at the plan once every 3 months or so to make sure that you're on track. Because frankly, I think a lot of these things can be done within the next 4 or 5 years, and I believe that the committee that drafted this plan feels the same way.
Well, and I agree 100% with you, Mike. You have to keep looking at them because, as you know, each year things will be added
Agreed.
to it.
Yep.
Hopefully, we'll be checking some of these things off. But what basically is pointed out what we figure are the most immediate needs for the city right now and where to spend the money. And then obviously, again, as we progress through the year, hopefully we can check some of these off, and then again, we have to add something because of some kind of issue or something. I guess that's what we have to do.
Yeah.
Anyway, we had a motion and a second. Carried. So,
Thank you.
thank you, Mike.
Good job.
Let's see, moving on. Craig, vacation, approving resolution 2002, vacating the alleyways. Just for clarification, we have some more maps, so everybody knows what we're talking about. We have the resolution in front of us, but
So this looks different than what I looked at last time.
What you're seeing in front of you incorporates some feedback that I received last week, so I was just trying to respond.
unfortunately, I wasn't here last week, so I missed out on some of the discussion. But kind of piecemeal some of it together, we talked to the councilman and Craig and himself. So basically, what you have here is you're not asking for any vacation on the, well, why don't you go ahead and explain what you're asking before I put it together.
And yes, so if I may, you're right, this was not shown last week. What I showed to the members last week was an eastern approach off of Spruce Street. The request was to vacate the internal alleys, the alley adjacent to Molly's property to the north, and then while we're at it, in between Molly and Mark Lassard's property, and then also to incorporate the North Street into this. And the feedback I received was the internal alleys were not a problem. North Street was sort of a non-starter, and so I've worked with that. The vacation to the north here, the eastern part of the ditch that runs up to the culvert and Spruce, that was tabled. And then there wasn't really any discussion to the north between Molly and Mark Lassard's property. So what you're seeing in front of you is I just flipped the schematic with a western entrance, incorporating an entrance off of North Street. So you'd come in next to there's a fire hydrant and a sewer drain. Then there's the cleared North Street that obviously is not paved. But with that as the entrance, halfway down we could use that as the entry into the development and just minimize the amount of asphalt around there. And also that would then provide the public access down to what would then be the lake access. So this preserves public lake access, preserves North Street, and we just use North Street as the entry. The number of houses and so forth is still just a schematic, basically just trying to frame up directionally what an entry and a cul-de-sac might look like. And to repeat one thing that was discussed last week, the green and the red lines depict the proposed modifications to where the creek runs into the lake. The red lines would be the proposed dredging, which would be 4 feet below the normal high water mark, the ordinary high water mark. And the green would be a 3-to-1 slope on the shores, and the shores would be rip-wrapped. So you would have a safe 3-to-1. The DNR believes 3-to-1 to be a safe approach for children, so that no one stumbles and falls in on a steep slope. So that's incorporated, and right now waiting further feedback from the DNR, but directionally it sounds like they're going to be supportive of that center dredge. And then between that center dredge and the southern 3-to-1 slope, right here at the mouth is cattails. And so as part of the clearing out, we're looking for permission from the DNR to clear out the invasive cattails, which of course is going on in other parts of the lake. So effectively what we're trying to do is clean up and deepen the creek. Most of it is on the fee acreage to begin with. I think it makes sense to still vacate the eastern part of that alley, but if that doesn't happen, that's fine. But I think it makes more sense and grant the city an easement. It's not a walkable area unless you're just really on a mission to try and crawl through there. But it's not an alley per se, it's really just a ditch.
You're talking the half of the
Up here.
alleyway on the north half?
Yeah.
Half of the north alley?
Yes, above the parcels that are called 1 and 2.
Terminate between lots 2 and 3?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
In between them you're talking.
Yes. If that wasn't clear, I'd be glad to repeat any of it, but
Not in between lots and it's would be the alley north of lots 15 and 16.
yes, that's the one. Let me.
And that runs east-west.
Yes.
Clarify that there'd be no vegetation in the alleyway on the west side between Scooterman's and this property.
That's the North Street.
Not requesting any vacation for that.
Right.
That looks like, I believe it's a 33-foot alleyway. I'm not sure on that.
It's a flat.
But that would be the entrance, or halfway down anyway, would be the entrance to the proposed cul-de-sac for the housing development.
Yeah, on the Ranier plat, it's called North Street.
Can I say something about that North Street section? There is a sewer line that runs to the residence to the west of North Street that is very shallow, and
There's
there's.
rock there.
I'm sorry?
Where are we talking?
There's a rock.
Right, because it's bedrock there, and when we were working on County Road 130, the project all got totally changed because that bedrock would have been blasted and it just sort of changed the whole layout of the project. So there was issues years ago about even snowmobilers going over that sewer line and making it freeze. So that's an issue about North Street that's existing.
Yeah, the storm sewer, I don't know where the storm sewer lies in
That's a sanitary sewer.
in that,
Sanitary sewer to the house right here, to the west of North Street, goes that way, and it goes all the way down County Road 130.
there's into Scooterman's house, is a sanitary sewer?
Yes, it goes, and then it goes straight east into the harbor. Yeah, this way.
Oh, right, when he
Yeah.
was doing 130, he broke that sanitary sewer.
Right, it's very shallow because of the bedrock there.
So that would have to be insulated if the roadway enters in that way. That's what it'd have to be. It's not a problem, it just have to be insulated. If this plan is what is your future plan for development for these lots for housing, if that cul-de-sac remains in like that and the entrance does come off of 130, consideration will have to be that we certainly have to dig down, which is shallow, it isn't a big deal.
I remember this.
30, you know, two sheets of insulation to cover it. That's,
In addition, I don't believe that it's legal for a city to vacate a street and then get an easement.
and then do what?
And then get an easement granted to it. I was given that advice, that a city cannot vacate a street and then come back and get an easement under the street that was vacated. That was the legal advice I was.
So what area would we be talking to?
We're talking about North Street.
The one with the sewer rules. That one, right?
Yes,
You mean this one here?
yes.
Yes.
So then,
Well,
So,
it ain't necessarily vacate that.
Yeah,
There's no necessary-
there might be some cross wires here, I'm not sure, but I think there is a discussion about vacating this and providing an easement back to the city, and I was taking counsel from Dave Serrano. Not legal counsel, but if legal counsel is saying that's not proper, then it's not proper.
Well, let's take it one at a time, I'm getting a little confused. The alleyway at, where everybody can see it, it goes up along the west alleyway that originally you had requested vacation.
That's a street, not an alley.
That, well, street, whatever, that's not in the proposal, no, that's not.
So based on the feedback from last week, I
That's
withdrew
been
that.
withdrawn. So there is a sewer line in there, but if access is needed to get to this cul-de-sac at that time, whenever this happens, that sewer line would have to be insulated that goes into sewers. No big deal, it's just pointing that out. The other question is, this one here, you asked to vacate this alley here through the middle,
Yeah.
to the center. Any issues with that at all? Okay. The north one up here that lies behind Molly Woods' property, you're requesting half of that to be vacated?
Yes, the idea, and part of this came from discussions with Dave Serrano, is that could be vacated and then there could be an easement provided to the city, should there be any desire to go back on there. But I'm just hearing that that's not legally possible, so the request would be to vacate it.
Is there anything back there now? You're telling me there's a sewer line behind that place? I don't think there is. No, behind this north alley, in this alley here. There's no sewer back there, is there? There's nothing there.
North Street.
this is North Street.
Yeah, so there's nothing here, so we could vacate it. We don't need an easement back. The only easement was, what would we need
Well,
an easement back
the general
for?
consensus last week was that we would not do that.
Do what?
Vacate that alley along the creek that runs
And what
from,
is the reason for that?
because it's considered a public waterway.
It's what?
And it's considered a public waterway leading up into that, and we didn't want to get rid of anything that the city had that would prevent people from accessing whatever may be.
Okay.
Wasn't the DNR said that if you have like a street or an alley that abuts up to public waterway, you're not supposed to consider the vacation request? Or am I thinking wrong? I thought that was in our information.
It's in the policy.
Let's see here.
So what, there's access down North Street to that same waterway. So why
North Street's only going half the way.
Huh?
He's only requesting half of North Street to the turn into.
He didn't request anything. Is this North Street here?
Yeah,
Yeah, he's not
He's just
requesting anything,
requesting
yeah.
the roadway.
So the access goes down there now.
Yeah, but all he's doing is requesting that access into here. He's not going all the way here.
No.
Right.
Talking about the-
No, he's not doing anything, that would be a city road that went down there that far. As far as we bring it, we can take it right down to the river if we wanted to, or to
Yeah.
the creek if we wanted to. I see it being necessary to go halfway to get into the cul-de-sac, but it wouldn't be necessary to go any farther unless we so desire, you know,
Right.
whatever reason. But the access is still there if they wanted to walk down there or whatever. I see Nick, you got your hand, what's up?
That North Street that goes north, that he's talking about the access coming in. The access coming in up right here, coming off of 130
Yes.
into the cul-de-sac. If you made this, this is gonna be a public road, right?
It's city right away right now, it's a
Yep.
city street right now.
So if,
He's not requesting anything
yep,
on
no, but if we put a public road in right here, couldn't you run that public road right to here, and this is, would be all public to access this?
We could.
And then you would- then you wouldn't
Can't
have-
show desire.
Yeah, then you wouldn't have, this right here, bring a chainsaw with you, you're gonna access anything in here. This is nothing. If you have a public road that ran all the way up and access right here where you're gonna dredge this, it'd be a lot better than having public people walking through here.
Well, I mean, there were discussions of doing that though,
Running that road all the way up there?
of having a pathway along that creek. Mayor Wagner mentioned that to me a lot.
Yeah, I mentioned that a while back, that there may be a walkway along that,
Yes,
you know, from the park all the way through there.
yes.
You know, that was just one of these thoughts, I guess.
So, but if I may on that, if you've had discussions about a pathway back to here, I just wouldn't be aware of that, but we've talked about a pathway, once we make this more navigable, having walkways next to it to make it actually more user-friendly for anyone to go to their boats or whatever. But certainly in my involvement, owning the property, I've never contemplated any sort of walkway. As he said, you'd have to bring waders and a chainsaw to make your way through there. But what I was trying to do was listen to the input or the feedback from last week, and this was preserving your public water access. You can go from the north side, you can go from the south side.
Would once you break that up, would be wide enough for people to have docks and boats there? Is
Yeah,
that
we're
what
talking
you're
about
saying?
slips.
Yeah, putting, essentially, one of the diagrams that I showed last week had some docks on this side where there'd be boat slips.
Yeah, the motion to access,
So,
I'm
yeah,
guessing, would be
so
lots
all-
3 and 4.
And that would be on the fee acreage there on the canal. It'd actually be part of the land, and the DNR was supportive of that. So,
Do we have a statement from them, let's see?
no, I just met with them on the property, but we can get it.
Right now, the only boat I've ever seen, is Mike Lassard. Anyway, he had a boat pulled up somewhere in there, one time I went down there. Once it's cleaned out, like I said, there would be, you could probably get up as far as lot 3. And that'd be it. But it'd be cleaned up. Now everybody understands, I guess, what we got here. And so the proposal is to vacate the interior alleyway, basically from County Road 120 to North Street, that very interior one, which basically goes right through there, so right through there. And half of the north alleyway, correct?
No, that's, you're not pointing to north.
No,
That's not right.
That's not north. What you were pointing to wasn't north.
This ain't north?
no.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were pointing north.
This alley on the north of the map, north side of the map, half of it.
No.
The alleyway, the roadway between Scooterman's map, he's not asking for it, he's not asking, correct? So it's just this half here, and whatever went through the middle, that somewhere in here, I think it's right here. Looking at the map, but yeah, right through here. 3 lots, bottom half of lot 1 and bottom half of lot 2.
So going back to the application, so this is what we were talking about being difficult to traverse.
Yeah.
That is talking about having a chainsaw. Over here, this alley is between Mark Lassard's house and the creek. So leaving that alley open is a little bit odd because it'd be between Mark and the creek. But if that's the committee's findings, then fine. But last week, what I thought there was agreement on were these interior cross alleys, and of course we removed the North Street.
The alleys line south, lots 15 and 16.
Yes.
Yes.
And there's not been any discussion about this part right here. That was, since I was going through this effort, I pursued the signatures of Mark and Molly just to try and from my perspective, clean that up. But there hasn't been any discussion on that.
Would Mark and Molly have to bring their own petition?
They did. They signed this.
I thought it just separate.
They signed it,
Never mind.
they were okay with it.
Oh, it doesn't.
I didn't have a problem with number 20.
Okay.
They had signed off on that.
Okay.
Well, in this proposal, there is access to the creek through North Street.
Halfway up, right?
Right. No, right. Right here.
Right.
All the way up is access.
All the way up. The street goes, that's where Sammy Woods
Right.
cleared it, he was gonna make a whole landing there or something, so that's still,
It goes
that's still
right,
city property.
and it goes through the creek.
No action needed, no nothing. There's no action, no nothing needed there. The only thing, if there's ever a street brought in there, it brought to the attention that we would have to insulate that little bit of private sewer, which is not a major deal at all. So there's the access to the creek.
That's on North Street, and we're just giving access to that.
Yeah, we've always maintained access.
And then he wants this.
Right.
So then the question is, and the interior one that runs from lot 1 to lot 4, kind of right at the bottom edge of lot 1 and 4, that one nobody has any problem with. And then the only one in question is the last one up on the very top of the map. And are you questioning the alleyway to be abandoned or half?
Dan, are you talking about mulch?
This alley, this is north, so it'd be the alleyway, on the north side of lots 2 and 3.
Those are houses with the lots.
There's no houses in there, there's nothing in there.
That's where we plan on putting the houses, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Yeah, there would be, but that's where it is.
That's not the lots.
She's going by actual lot number.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm just confusing, I'm just saying lots 2 and 3. That's what
Those
the
are
big map.
his proposed
So
lots.
this is the only alley that's in question, and whether we should vacate it, is the alleyway on the north side, right up here.
The north side of 15 and 16, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
You're right, 15 and 16, yeah, on the original map. 2 and 3 on this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the question.
So it's gonna end, he's gonna take that alley from here to here, right?
Well,
This lot 1 and 2, It's gonna end at this line here at 3, is that what you're saying?
You would, so on the right side, you would,
You go the whole way?
so what's being discussed, yes, is orange.
I'm just trying to get it right here.
Yeah, so this piece right here is that right there.
Okay.
And then this right here is between Mark's house and the creek.
And that's right
That's
there.
right here.
And Mark's signed off on that.
Yes, he's
Oh.
part of this application. And then there's this piece right here that's between Molly and Mark.
Okay,
So they've applied for that. I was just carrying the torch since I was doing it all in the package.
gotcha. Okay.
And so these would be split between the owners.
Yeah, the little green split.
Okay, that was a question too.
Yeah, to clarify that, I think it's a question between city lots 7 and 8, that is not being asked to vacate. If that's ever, that'd be between Molly and Mark to request that.
No.
The property owners.
Okay.
No,
They have requested
Oh,
it.
they have requested.
It's part of the application.
It's on there, all right, then that's in the proposal.
That's on the,
Yeah,
Okay.
it is. Purple.
Well, I personally, as long as North Street remains open, all the way to the lake, I see, or to the river, whatever, creek, whatever you call it, I see no issue with this vacation proposal. So I'll make a motion to vacate the alley north of lot 15 and 16, and the interior alleyway lot. The interior alleyway lots.
It would be the alleyway south of lots 15 and 16.
Yes. I don't know how to describe that. The alleyway running north and south, starting at lot, or that, between lots 27 and 28 on your map, running north, running due north to 7 and 8, out to River Street, to vacate that, to vacate the alleyway, I guess it's an interior alleyway, I don't know what, or between lots 19 and 20, and, well, that interior one, and all the other south lots. And the alleyway between 15 and 16, but nothing on North Street. Basically, what's colored on this map is what I make the proposal.
No,
What's colored on this map is what I'm making a proposal on. Do I have a second?
I understand, I understand.
I wrote a second.
Yeah, go ahead. Further discussion?
Maybe that's just his job.
Yeah, Todd, what is these? Okay, same thing.
Double check it.
I thought we weren't gonna do the alleyway to the north of 15 and 16 because the creek is part of that.
and it's a public
And
waterway.
it's a public waterway.
Maybe he's moving the other
We
way.
can't. It's
The
a
public waterway lies,
public
yeah,
waterway.
the public waterway, if you can look and see where it kind of lies, is in there. Access to the public waterway would be access through North Street. Right down North Street. There's plenty of access there, 33 feet wide. I don't know how else you get to it, other than North Street. Right now, the only way you could get to it, if you walk between Molly's and Mark Massard's property, right here, you could get into basically the top of the creek. You could come off of 120, if you could walk that wooded area to probably where the creek, there's a depression there, but the creek, the water ends right about at lot 7 and 8, somewhere in that area.
There'll be no public access. Say this right.
There would be no public access from
public
the
access
east,
here.
from the east.
No public access here, it would just be from North Street, correct? And you can't get nowhere through here anyway to get to access to the creek, correct?
Right. The only access there'd be is down North Street, and that's, right now, that's the only other way you can get at it is if you come from the east.
So this is
along
not, now,
here.
you can't.
No,
This would be public
These are
access.
mostly on Mark's yard.
Curtis.
Either this way or that way.
And find a trail
Or
there.
you can come to North Street there or North Street there.
You can't get through here anyway.
I mean, you really can't get through it, so.
I'll second.
Nick, Wilbur seconded.
So we have a motion and a second to vacate basically everything you see on this proposal, which is this alley here, the alley here, and the north and south alley,
But not North.
but not North Street. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
No.
Passed. Thank you. Moving on.
Thank you.
Approve resolution 2022-09 supporting Rainy River, Rainy Lake, one watershed, one plan.
I'll make a motion on that. She just talked that she wanted our support for that, and then we can, later on, say if we want to be in certain levels of helping, they just really want a better support right now. We'll be at the lowest level of support at this point until we see if they get it passed or whatever.
Where it ties us into, so
Yeah.
you're comfortable with that?
Right,
So that
I'll
is-
make a motion on that.
I'll second.
We have a resolution, with a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. To approve North Coots Area Sanitation proposed changes to the board makeup. John was telling us about that. You guys familiar with that? It's not
Yes,
that's better than it was.
Yep, they're gonna change it.
Yeah, give us a little more room.
And they just wanted us to be support for that improvement.
Have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so carried. To approve the request of Looney Crew to close Finstead Lane, July 1 and 2nd for a party with music.
I'll make that motion.
Is it possible to possibly add a stipulation in there that the music shuts out at midnight?
I think you can do it if you want.
Because I think we had some issues last year, noise issues last year. and I think,
Oh, stop the music at midnight?
Stop the music at midnight.
Okay, yeah, so the motion would be request from Looney Crew, and as long as it's extended, well, go ahead.
And also there was, I was told by several people that they were going to be setting fireworks off. I need them to be aware that it's, we have Minnesota statutes against the law for that. We had issues with it last year and nobody, it was kind of everybody blamed their next door neighbor for it. So I think that they need to be aware of that situation.
You certainly can tell them that they know the law, individually.
I'm not saying that they're the ones that are doing it,
Right.
but it needs to be,
But then the motion would be to close down this Lane July 1st and 2nd and have the music stop at midnight.
at midnight. Yep.
Yeah, and we will make them aware of the fireworks ordinance.
Other than that, I have nothing further.
Well, we have a motion and a second on that.
I'll second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So So carried.
One more thing before we go into open forum. Cheryl, can you invite the county engineer to our community for whole meeting in May, or in June, I guess, we're at already? We gotta talk about the stop signs and stuff. It's way out of control, even worse than ever, I think. So we need to sit and talk to them and see what we can come up with. There's gotta be a solution of some kind. Just have him come and talk to us and we'll talk to him and go from there. That'd be great, thank you.
We open it to the public. Anybody got any comments out there or anything? Mike?
So this development of this project, this Calisac, building homes and stuff, you're months and months and months out, right?
Yeah, this is the first
Year?
step.
Could be, yeah, we don't know.
More than that, they gotta get through the
He's
DNR.
gonna go through all kinds of stuff yet before he...
This was the first step as far as, so he can set his plans in motion, whether, you know, you come in from the east, come in from the west.
So you don't know anything if it's gonna be an association or anything?
No.
That
don't have
would be
any
his
of
plan,
that.
and again, we'd like to see his plan. I think this is the first step. Now that he's got the vacations, I'm probably figuring he's going to come back at some point with
Well, you're
some
looking
kind of
at-
proposal, because
Before it's
obviously.
even think about it, you're looking at another year before it's even shovel ready.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure it'd be,
You got, the
you know,
DNR is gonna be the biggest one.
Yep, that's what he's gonna do.
Well, he did say that he wanted to take advantage of the summer weather.
Yeah.
So I don't know what that means, but he
We've
did
been
say
talking
that.
about this project for 6 years, and now they're finally starting to dig it. So it ain't gonna happen overnight. Plus, they gotta come with building permits and blah, blah, blah.
as soon as we know something,
Yeah, so you don't know,
project.
you don't even
Yeah, I
have
don't
any
see
idea how
how,
big the lots are gonna be or anything.
pardon me, Mike?
You have no idea how big the lots are or anything.
Again, I think that all depended on a lot what this vacation, had we not vacated that center lot, I don't know if it would have been, you know,
Would have been
so many lots. So now that that's issue has been set aside, been cleared up, I think he'll come with a proposal of what he plans to do, because obviously there's sewer connections, water connections, you know, little road going in there, things like that. So I'm sure he'll keep abreast of, we'll keep everybody in public abreast of what's going on.
Yeah, so they're gonna
I think
be
it's
single-
important for Ranier to have a development, or, you know.
They're gonna be single family dwellings? Is that
What he said is they're starter homes, and he's looking at charging $500,000 to $600,000 per home.
For starter home?
Yes,
Yeah.
That's what he-
that was his word usage, not mine.
Right now, if you read the paper,
It's not like that.
affordable housing for the low income is 400.
Yeah, and there's nobody wrong.
447,000.
I didn't realize that.
But how many got for them one bedroom homes for AV?
That's senior.
$447,000 for one bedroom home, so you're not going to get anything under $400,000 to $500,000 no matter what you do now.
I'd like to move back to Ranier, but not for that kind of money.
Well, and who knows what Mr. McKenzie will end up finally presenting. I mean, we don't
This is all
know.
speculation.
Yeah, right, I mean, again, if he sells a lot to you, I don't know what kind of stipulations are going to be on it, whether you're going to require a minimum square footage, or, you know, the color of your siding, and those things are up in the air yet, but this is the very first step. Now, I'm sure he can go and follow through, and if he sells a lot, you want a 1,500 square foot house, and you can get it built for $200,000.
What he said at the last meeting was that they would build one house as like a model, and then potentially bring in a builder to do the other multiple houses. That was what he hypothetically was just saying. I think it's all hypothetical, that's what he said last meeting.
I just priced out to build a ranch style home on a little bit of acreage that me and my dad have, and it was over 400,000 to just build a house for ourselves.
Yeah, it's
So to buy a house now,
Yeah,
right now,
a couple $100 a foot is not a number.
I talked to a couple contractors and stuff, and they said just a normal house for average Joe is anywhere from 250 to 300,000 just to build it.
Just to build it.
At this point.
Yep.
Yeah, then you need one.
Well, what we're looking for is something more like a retirement.
Oh, yeah.
Arizona.
No.
He knows why we're not moving, right?
Well, again, we'll keep everybody abreast on this because, you know, obviously we contributed to the housing study and there's a need for housing, not just in Ranier, all over. That's why they got that grant to renew AB and things like that. So whatever the market can bear or whatever type of houses he designs in there, obviously we'd like some input and stuff
What
like
they're
that.
doing to help us all.
We know about as much of it as you do right now, so. But it'd be nice, I'd glad to have you guys right here. Move in with your son.
You know, I lived in Ranier for 20